Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Talks, the show where we explore how organizations and individuals are creating a positive change in India and the world at large. I'm your host, Arushi, and today I am delighted to have Mr. Rahul Bakare as our guest. Rahul Bakare serves as the founder and CEO of Urdhvam Environmental Technologies Private Limited, a groundbreaking groundwater sustainability startup headquartered in Pune. Mr. Bakra's academic journey includes the attainment of an MS in mechanical engineering from Michigan State University, complemented by an executive program in business management from IIM Calcutta. His professional trajectory spans 18 years in the software and IT sector, both in the United States and India. However, Mr. Bakri chose to redirect his career towards social development, collaborating with luminaries like Nandan and Rohini Nilekani. He undertook the role of Director of Grants at Arghyam Foundation, where he pioneered India's inaugural participatory groundwater management network. Since 2014, Mr. Bakri has been an entrepreneur dedicating to leveraging IT, IoT, robotics, and technology as enablers for creating innovative, cost-effective, and scalable solutions aimed at revitalizing India's rapidly depleting groundwater resources. In India, a staggering 80% of the population relies on groundwater to meet diverse needs, marked by the presence of 4.5 crore borewells and an annual addition of approximately 20 lakh new borewells. The unrestrained extraction of groundwater, exacerbated by declining natural recharge rates, has resulted in the abandonment of low use and non-producing borewells, contributing to farmer distress, water scarcity, and unsustainable livelihood. The situation has given rise to the emergence of Urdhvam Environmental Technologies Private Limited by Mr. Rahul Bakare, which offers a transformative solution known as Bow Charger, a patented innovation in rainwater harvesting. Furthermore, the company has pioneered a cutting-edge robotic tool capable of performing angiography of borewells. Mr. Bakre, we extend our warmest welcome to you for gracing us with your presence and on Impact Talks today.
Thank
We
you.
are sincerely grateful for your participation.
Thank you.
When I had the privilege of introducing you to the audience, I couldn't resist drawing parallels between your persona and Shah Rukh Khan's character in Swades. So, without further ado, I think we should start with our questions. Mr. Bakre, as I mentioned earlier to our audience about your impressive academic background and extensive professional experience in the IT sector, both in the United States and in India, could you kindly elucidate the defining moment or inspiration that ultimately propelled you to transition from a thriving corporate career into the realms of the development sector? And also the pivotal circumstances that drove you to establish Urdhvam Environmental Technologies.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity on Impact Talks. Actually, when I went to US, I went there with a dream to get myself educated there, learn things there. But I never had any plans to stay back there because I always wanted to come back and give my 2 cents in the development of the country. I come from a school which has lot of social development roots per se, and that upbringing from my tender age was something which was always in my mind that I have to add value not only to my own pockets but also I need to add value into in the society. I need to make some change, some small dent in the universe so that more than myself, I should be able to serve the society in one way or the other. So that had been always been the thought process in my mind. So when I went to US, I studied there. I worked for almost 6, 7 years there. I started with a startup, learned the systems processes there, went to um, uh, and consulting company. I studied how a consulting company works. Then I went into Fortune 500 company, learned how global operations are managed, and I learned the entire length and breadth of how different organizations they work, what are the systems, processes, why India is India, and why US is US. And I could clearly see there are lots of benefits, there are lots of opportunities in India as well, and that's where I decided to come back to India. And just like as you rightly said, the Shah Rukh Khan moment happened in my life as well. And one day we decided to come back to US from US, and since then the thought of going back has never occurred in my mind.
That's very impressive, I must say. And as you reflect on your journey, it would be highly informative and illuminating to hear about the challenges you encountered during your early days in social development sector.
Yeah, so the actually, if you ask me, coming from a corporate till 2009, I was in corporate. Before that, I did venture into agriculture, but everybody called me stupid, right? I was working in online gaming, in strategy, management, in product program management kind of roles. I was always intrigued by this problem that why farmers commit suicide. And when I see air is free, sunlight is free, right? Water is free, then why farmers commit suicide was always the question in my mind. And I always wanted
Right.
to experiment with my own self. Just like Gandhiji used to say that basically you have to be the change which you want to bring into the world. I wanted to be that change. But then everybody said that coming from online gaming, directly going into farming would be too much of a downgrade and a risk. So I took some time off. I did my IIM Calcutta exec program. That gave me some time to think about what I want to do in my life, what's my ikigai. And I really realized that possibly I want to work with nature. At the same time, I also want to make some impact. I have been doing a lot of reading as well about the farmers and the suicides and the agriculture production and pricing issues and all. And while doing that, I realized that water is one of the major problems. So I said to myself that I'll leave my the fantastic corporate life with a lot of big, huge package with all the car, house, and everything. I said, no, no, that's fine. I'd been there and done that, right? Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm a creature who becomes uncomfortable when I become comfortable. So I realized that basically, if I want to add value, I need to take that leap of faith. And I took that leap of faith. Rather than directly going to the farming, I said I'll first go and start working on the water issues across India. And that's where I started working at Arghyam Foundation. And I was given this opportunity for which I'm really grateful to learn about Bharat. I came from India and I had to work in Bharat. So lot of unlearning had to be done from my side.
Right,
Uh,
right.
in the corporate world, 1 plus 1 is always equal to 2, right? But in the social development, 1 plus 1 can be 0, 1 plus 1 can be -5, it can become 10, right? So
Right.
a lot of unlearning had to be done on my side. I learned from the various people in the organization about what is social development, what are the problems of people on the ground. I used to travel extensively all across India, and from there I could clearly understand that water is a major problem of India, and especially the rural folks. And currently, it is satisfied by centralized systems, but the decentralized way of getting water is typically groundwater. And unfortunately, there is hardly anybody working on groundwater. So that's where I started working with different NGOs in different parts of India and developed the participatory groundwater management network. And that was the kind of a time when I realized that groundwater is a huge problem, but hardly anybody is working on it. And that's where I decided to work with Arghyam Foundation on that. And through that, we were able to leverage huge amounts of money through Planning Commission towards first India's first aquifer mapping program, as well as pushing aquifer mapping into the watershed program as such. So we did a lot of fantastic work on groundwater across India. And while working in Planning Commission, again, I with Planning Commission, we also realized that there is hardly anybody because our education system lacks. groundwater. We don't produce any groundwater professionals. So there is hardly anybody who is working on groundwater. So if we have to solve that problem at that scale, we have to solve it using technology by developing professionals in that sector, and that's where my thought process started moving away from the NGO sector, because NGO sector typically the pilots never fail, but they never scale. And I always wanted to work on something which was scalable in nature, and that's why I decided to start my for-profit venture, which would not only take care of the financial security, sustainability of the projects or the work what we are doing, but also social, technical, ecological, environmental, financial, as well as institutional and legal as well. So if one has to develop a sustainable integrated solution, we have to take all these sustainabilities into consideration, and
Right.
able
Right.
to develop this social impact organization by first unlearning a lot of corporate things, learning the social development things, and again now applying the corporate things back to the social development field to basically make things sustainable.
That's absolutely right. And after listening to you now, I feel what people say is right. Continue to diligently pursue your goals, and in due course, the tide of fortune will align in your favor. That takes me to my next question. And given that nearly a decade has passed since the inception of Urdhvam Environmental Technologies Private Limited, we are curious to know about the range of products and services your organization currently provides. Could you please share details about the various offerings and the sectors or areas in which you are actively involved?
So actually, when I started in 2014, I started understanding about the sector. I was joined by my co-founder Vineet. He's a hydrogeologist, and he is somebody who had been hydrogeologist for last 22 years. He did his masters from University of Tübingen in Germany in tropical hydrogeology. So just imagine he had to go to Germany to learn about tropical hydrogeology in a temperate country. So that's the unfortunate situation we are in. But we joined our hands and we started working. The initial few years we worked on doing projects specifically in rainwater harvesting, aquifer mapping for industries, for SEZs like Indospace, Embassy, industries such as Hindustan Unilever, Godrej, JSW Steel. And through that, those groundwater hydrogeology based interventions of rainwater harvesting, we are able to generate a potential recharge of 1156 crore liters every year,
Oh,
right? So we worked at an industrial level, we worked at a domestic level, we worked with townships, apartments, big corporate locations where drinking water, domestic water was used. And we, again, using the science of hydrogeology, we are able to generate 61.5 crore liters of harvesting every year. We didn't even stop only at that. We also worked at designing groundwater hydrogeological structures, especially rainwater harvesting structures at an environmental level, at a watershed level. We work with large corporates like JSW Steel, L&T. We also work with many NGOs, leading NGOs, on mapping the groundwater aquifers first and then designing the structures. Or else we are just going by the rule of thumb, and that is not creating sufficient recharge, and hence the effectiveness and efficiency of watershed treatments is very low. So we are able to recharge around 1210 square kilometer area by studying those many areas. And for all these things, we undertook use of technology, because groundwater hydrogeology is a multidisciplinary science. It's not yet matured just like other technologies are. So we are using IT, GIS, mapping, IoT, mobile, cloud technologies to disrupt that space by using technology to solve this problem. So we started with these projects, we did all across India, but we realized that again, we are not going to scale. With projects, there is an inherent dependency on human beings, and that make sure that basically we won't scale. So at some point in time, after 3 4 years of working, because I left the NGO field to develop something which was scalable, right? And if I were to continue in the same way, then again I would have defeated my own purpose. So we started culling out, taking out the knowledge what we received from all the projects what we did all across India, in hydrogeology and use of technology to solve those problems. And then we decided to shift our gear from projects to products. So, because product is something which can be scaled up. So we took assimilated all our knowledge, and we started converting those products into different areas or gaps in water sector. For example, there are three major gaps in groundwater sector. As I mentioned to you, awareness generation and education itself doesn't exist. Second one is basically, if India is growing at 7% GDP, the virtual water requirement is growing by at least 15 to 20%, right? And India doesn't have that much amount of water. So if that's the case, then how do we generate that water? Was the question in front of us. And what we realize is that supply of more water is also very crucial. But the third problem in area is that basically water additional supply which is generated, unfortunately, is used not is it's not used properly. For example, water is drawn from 400, 500, 600 feet below ground, and then it is given to the crops using flood irrigation, where basically hardly any water goes to the plants, but most of it goes into evaporative losses. So demand management also is a major problem. So we took one problem area, which is a supply augmentation, and we started developing our first product called as bore charger. Just like a mobile also needs, after some time, the mobile's battery just goes away, right? So we have to recharge it, we have to replenish it so that the mobile can work seamlessly. Just like that, borewells also need recharging. Now, India has more than 8 crore borewells, but hardly anybody is working on recharging them. We are just using borewells as a means to just take the water out, abstract the water out. And what water we are taking out is not today's water, it is decades, centuries, and even millions of years old water. But nobody is putting back water into those borewells. We have left it to the nature, and the natural recharge rate is very low. And hence, we decided to take borewell as a unit of taking our first product, working on the first product, bore charger, which was again funded by IIM Ahmedabad and Startup Oasis initially. And we were incubated at Wilgrow and Startup Oasis. And we started our journey of moving towards the product. So we worked extensively on understanding the problems on the ground, hydrogeologically, socio-economically, what are people's problems. We did interact with customers, we understood their pain points, and then we developed the technology called as bore chargers, which is now a very widespread and widely accepted and acclaimed technology. So we started, as I mentioned to you, moving from projects, we came into products. Now we are also started working on developing products in the other two aspects of the problem areas as well. In awareness education, we have developed online training modules. We have developed groundwater games. We also are working on a groundwater simulator. Many educational awareness related products we are working on. And on the demand management side of it, because Peter Drucker, the management guru, says that what you don't measure, you can't manage. And unfortunately, that is a problem of groundwater, because everything is below ground, we don't see it. And hence, there is a huge problem of overexploitation. So the idea is that how do we convert invisible source called as groundwater and make it visible and measurable? So we are developing affordable groundwater sensors. We already have developed a groundwater mobile app which can collect certain data about groundwater. And many such data points. And our actually aim is to bring all these products into market, again, which are scalable products by themselves. And at some point in time, become a digital or a data collection, analysis, visualization, and advisory platform. So the idea is move from projects to products and products to digital company over next 3 to 5 years. So that had been our journey, and this is our dream as such.
That's amazing. That's amazing. In light of the growing importance of environmental issues, particularly considering your expertise in training and capacity building also, do you perceive an immediate imperative to strengthen environmental education and elevate public awareness? And if so, could you elaborate on comprehensive and efficient strategies for achieving this objective? Moreover, how can the nation worldwide draw lessons from each other's experiences and foster collaborations in tackling global environmental issues and challenges?
So basically, if you ask me, the issues what we are facing, as I mentioned to you, is that we are everybody of us, right, is a polluter, right, and everybody of us is consuming something and we are producing something, right. Unfortunately, if you see in nature, there are more animals than human beings, right? But do you, if you go to jungle, do you see garbage lying? Or do you see defecation places where you see a lot of urine and lot of feces lying here and there? No, because the nature has created these problems, but it also has created the solutions which are extremely decentralized, right? But what's happening is that because of the modern humanity, we are congregating, we are coming together and forming hamlets, we are forming households, we are forming villages, we are forming cities, right? The more the bigger the conglomeration, the bigger problems are. And that's where whatever are the problems what we see, actually they are not problems themselves. It's a concentration of too many things happening in one location, right? That is creating pollution, right? If you see, if we defecate or if an animal defecates, right, the defecated material itself has a lot of bacteria and things which take care of it, or it disintegrates, and that is, there is a life cycle which basically converts that waste into a product which is used by plants, right? And again, the life cycle starts there, and it basically goes
Right.
in. But in the human context side, if you see, if we defecate all of us in toilets and use water for flushing out, then that's a problem. So these anthropogenic problems are the problems which you, I, and everybody are part of. And nature has created problems, but the solutions which nature has created are extremely at a decentralized level, right, at an individual level, right. But here, because of our coming together, we are facing tremendous issues, right? And that's what the eutrophication of the seas, water bodies, everything is happening. It's nothing, actually, it's all nitrates, right? Those
Mhm.
actually should go into the soil, but unfortunately, they're coming in water, and that's what is creating problems, right? So there is a need to basically close these loops, and whatever are the natural ways of handling things, the anthropocentric ways or the engineering ways of handling things are creating more problems. It's called as wicked problem, right? For example,
Right.
a wicked problem is a problem which creates another five problems to solve, right? So the engineering solutions are something of that sort. So anybody and everybody should understand these aspects very well
Mhm.
before they get into solving any problem in an environmental way, or else we will be just chasing one will be killing one ghost, then another two three will be created, will be creating those two
Right.
three, like that, right? So
Right. Right.
that's the unfortunate thing. And in this whole thing, again, the environment related education awareness itself doesn't exist, right? uh,
Mm.
as I mentioned to, in groundwater, it's a complete void and a gap. But overall in the schools, again, there is hardly any information. I remember when I grew up, we didn't have any environment related things, right? Actually, what we had was Akbar ka beta kaun tha. I'm like, who cares, right? Instead of that, had they taught us that basically this is how the water works, this is how it comes in your tap, this is how you use it,
Mm.
pollute it, and then how it gets treated, how it should go out. All those sorts of things should have been taught to us, but unfortunately, it was not there. Hopefully, this new education policy should change it. But awareness and education is the first step towards any effective thought, and hence an action, and possibly a habit, and hence destiny. Right. So the
Right.
destiny starts somewhere at a thought level, and the thought level has to be seeded at a very young age. And I think that is where basically anybody and everybody should work on. I think if thoughts are created, then certainly the action can happen, and then slowly it can become a movement itself.
Right. 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 Um, your unwavering commitment to environmental sustainability is undoubtedly praiseworthy. Um, as we delve into our conversation, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your perspectives on the prevailing startup trends that has captivated the youth, and shed light on how these trends are poised to influence India's future landscape. Because Many are moving towards agricultural technologies also, and which are funded by some very high-end organizations.
Correct. So actually, I always see problems as an opportunity, right? And thankfully, the Startup India movement, which started in the late 2015, 16, was fantastic. Before that, employment generation or maybe any so-called innovation was always with big corporates, right?
Hmm.
And when to run a big corporate, you have to put a lot of systems, processes, checks, and balances in place, right? And
Right.
that kills away all the innovation. That kills away all the creativity because you are supposed to follow a regimental way of doing things. Because if you don't follow that regimental way, then the things cannot be scaled up. So there's a dichotomy here, right?
Right.
But
Right.
what India has, Bharat has realized also is that if we have to solve the problems of Bharat, because if you see the urban context, a lot of problems are there, but they are still manageable compared to the rural context. Like in the
Hmm.
agriculture value chain, there are so many gaps, so many issues which are there, right? So when people will start looking at the problems in agriculture or in environment or in any other fields which are not the mainstream startup fields, such as like let's say the IT, software, SaaS, and all these guys, right? So
Right.
the problems in front of India are tremendous. So if we have to grow as a nation, we have to solve all these problems at any and every walk of life, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And to solve that, there has to be a certain ecosystem which needs to be developed, and the government has developed that ecosystem in by developing the Startup India. Right, I myself am one of the beneficiaries of such an ecosystem where I was able to take a leap of faith and basically take my projects related understanding, develop into products, but it needed certain seed capital, it needed guidance, mentoring, advisory, all that stuff, and we were able to, fortunately, in our initial years, we were able to get that along with funding, right? So the Startup Oasis IIM Ahmedabad was phenomenal. Will Grow is another organization which helped us tremendously in terms of mentoring. Even till date, they're helping us. So what I'm trying to say is that that startup ecosystem, and in this whole thing, not a single penny I had to give as a bribe, right? Everything
Wow.
was
Amazing.
everything was on merit. Everything was discussed, debated, fought. Sometimes we got rejected. Nonetheless, many places we got selected as well. So when people see the youth of India required a place where they could find their passion, with patience and perseverance develop their passion into a profession, right? That is
Hmm.
something, an opportunity which the Startup India has given. And I'm sure we already have developed so many unicorns in typically the software, IT, those kinds of things.
Yes.
But tomorrow's problems are going to be agricultural problems, they are going to be environmental problems. And I'm sure we would generate unicorns even in those areas as well. So I'm very proud and very fortunate enough to basically taste the fruits of the Startup India movement. And I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of people who are working on solving these problems in their way. Obviously, not all of them are going to succeed. Many of them are going to fail, because startup is not only about an idea; it's also an idea converting that into something tangible product. That product has to be accepted by the customer, it has to be affordable, there is a supply chain. So there is a lot of thing which entails a successful startup, but that everything has to go through, everybody has to go through that agni pariksha, and only few will come out of it, and they will sustain and survive. In US, I think the success rate is around 10%. India currently we are, I think, around 5%, 7%, but I'm sure with time we'll be able to move ahead as well. But I'm sure when Tata started, when Ambani started, they started small somewhere, right? So these are going to be
Right.
the unicorns and the big companies of tomorrow. So I think whatever the government of India has done, I think, in my opinion, is really praiseworthy. And there are so many entrepreneurs who are sitting in the corporate who want to become entrepreneurs, right? Now they are getting encouraged, they are getting support, financial support, funding, as well as mentoring, guiding. So I'm a big fan of the Startup India movement because I myself am a classical example and a beneficiary as well. And I try to help any and every other entrepreneurs who come to me talking to me about business ideas, concepts. I suggest them this is workable, not workable, this is how we can make it work, connect with them, give them some networks, all the sorts of things I do in whatever limited capacity I can. But my actually dream is to start my own incubator or accelerator on environment related startups.
That's amazing, amazing. So government is doing a lot, right? But it is widely recognized that a significant portion of India, as we all know, relies on water. Um, the government, through initiatives like the Jal Jeevan Mission water management in various regions involving local communities, contributing to sustainable groundwater management. Despite these efforts and various other government initiatives, there remains a substantial segment of the population, grappling with water scarcity issue. In your view, what are the likely factors contributing to this challenge? And as your company specializes in designing watershed structure based on geology and geomorphology, hydrology, and hydrogeology, could you provide insights on how this comprehensive approach enhances the effectiveness of watershed projects?
Yeah, so actually, if you see who we are today as a nation, as a country, as a citizen, as a part of culture, society, history, everything is dependent on geology, right? Because geology decides what is going to be your geography, right? That geography decides what's going to be your rainfall, what's going to be your other environmental factors. That's going to decide how the water is going to behave in that geography, right? And that generates, develops soils. Soils develop food. Food develops habitations. Habitations develop society. That society brings in culture, right? So anything and everything, if you see at some point in time, has certain roots in geology, hydrogeology as such. And what I would say is that the current implementation, what we are doing in terms of water conservation, because if you see, India is a fantastic country in terms of agroecological zone, right? We get 3 months of rainy season, everything is cloudy. Then after that, 4 months, 3, 4 months, rainfall stops. We get fantastic sunshine, and we are able to take fantastic production, right? But with the increase in the economy, with increase in improvement in the livelihood, agriculture practices, water which is falling for those 3 4 months now has to be stored somewhere, right? And actually that is one of the major things, major aims of watershed implementation, right? So water implementation is basically soil and moisture rejuvenation, right? Because soil
Mm,
should not flow away, it should be conserved in situ so that it can generate more production, right? At the same time, water which is going to flow away in those 3 4 months has to be confined somewhere, has to be impounded somewhere, and whatever water which is falling has to be impounded, and that impounded water has to be used later point in time for the next subsequent 8 9 months, and that is something which is going to help us in terms of creating some sort of agriculture and domestic drinking water security as well, right?
yeah,
So the existing watershed implementations are happening by just looking at things on the surface without understanding the hydrogeological or the groundwater regimes, right? So if you see the surface water structures, out of 100 units of water which is stored during the rainy season, more than 50% of them go in evaporative losses, right? And only a limited amount of water is available. Now, groundwater has at least 30 to 40 times more capacity to store water than surface water, right? And it doesn't need any space, it doesn't need any, it won't have any evaporative losses. So the idea is, how do we take that running water which is going to the sea, stop it, make running water, make it walking water, make it crawling water, make it stand so that it will percolate, right? And where we build up these percolation structures is somewhere we should understand that whether the percolation is possible in that place or not. If there's a hard rock
right.
below, then the entire purpose of that structure is gone for a toss, right? So the idea about watershed is always about soil and moisture rejuvenation. Moisture is in situ underground water, but because of lack of hydrogeological understanding, construction of these structures are done based only on rule of thumb. Order one stream only do this, order two stream do that, right? But these locations and their numbers as well as their locations, it itself is wrong, because the hydrogeological study is not undertaken first. And what we are doing is that basically we are basically we fail to plan, and hence we plan to fail, right? Simply, that's why the effectiveness and efficiency of these watershed implementations is very poor, because we have not taken scientific inputs. So if scientific inputs are done in the watershed context, we will be able to save a lot of money, time, effort, energy, and we will be able to increase the effectiveness and efficiency. I'll give you a classical example. We work with the CSR. We did one implementation where the NGO partner had given them 3.5 crore budget for 10 watershed structures. But when the CSR came, no, no, why don't we do this hydrogeological study and then we develop the structures or implement the structures? When we did that study, we realized that basically out of those 10 structures, only 7 are required, one, and the location of those 7 are also not in right place to increase the effectiveness and efficiency. So we suggested change in the location that improved the recharge tremendously. At the same time, the CSR was able to save anywhere between 50 to 70 lakh rupees of their investment, right? So that was the fantastic value addition what we were able to do. This is another classical example where a lot of recharge implementations were planned for bore wells using pit type methodology. But when we mentioned to them that pit is going to recharge only during rainy season, so it's going to be very ineffective and inefficient, rather than use bore charger as a technology, which can recharge anywhere between 5 to 10 times more than what a pit type technology can do. It's one-fifth of the cost of the pit type technology. 2 to 3 hours it's required to undertake angiography and angioplasty of the bore well. So all these things, when we study, we are able to suggest based on science what are the most effective, efficient ways and cost effective as well to increase the effectiveness of the entire watershed implementation.
Um, as a prominent figure in the field of environmental sustainability, your professional endeavors are centered around fostering positive ecological changes. And given your role, could you shed light on your personal dedication to sustainability? Additionally, considering your involvement in environmental sustainability, consulting, and solutions, how do you integrate eco-friendly habits and practices into your daily life outside of your professional commitments to further promote sustainability?
So basically, what I personally undertake is that I go to many places in my spare time, whatever I get. I go and give trainings on basics of hydrogeology, basics of groundwater, basics of surface water. How, because as I mentioned to you, thought is the first thing, and that thought can be, it's like a seed. You have to basically plant it in each and everybody's mind. So I go everywhere. We also work on developing para hydrogeologists, the para professionals, because as a country is so big, we cannot reach length and breadth of the country. We have to develop decentralized way of developing developing talent, give them tools, techniques, technologies, and then basically unleash them on the market so that the market will be able to get science-based solutions. So that has been my passion, and I work on that either in my business or in my personal time as well. I go and I teach schools. I go to many clubs like Rotary clubs, Lions Club, which again are empowered. Even CSRs, we undertake many even trainings for CSRs as well, workshops for NGOs, workshops for CSRs, and through those I try to further the vision what we have in vis-a-vis water, vis-a-vis groundwater, because we are going to face tremendous problem in next 20, 30 years if we don't mend our ways now. As per Niti Aayog, more than 55% of the bore wells are going to go completely dry in next next 10 to 15 years, right? That's a huge amount of bore wells, huge amount of unemployment is going to create, huge amount
Right.
of socioeconomic aspects are going to come. So going and making even people aware that there is a resource called as groundwater, which is very important for you. That's my passion, and in my professional life or in my personal life, my passion basically rides everywhere. So, and I do it. I do that with a lot of passion as well as a lot of patience and perseverance as well. Because see, social development changes don't happen overnight. It's not magic pill. You take one pill and it happens. No, it doesn't happen, right? For all these changes, typically they say these are generational changes. It takes a generation or two to basically reach that level, because finally it's also about behavior change, right? As you rightly said, I try to go to various places because I also am an avid reader and a fan of solid waste management, right? And where I also have a lot of product ideas I have developed, but unfortunately don't get time to implement on those. But wherever I go, I also talk about the organic solid waste management, how that's not waste, how that can be converted into value-added products, or how that can go back to the nature sustainable in a sustainable way, so that the nutrient cycle, the NPK cycle also will be closed as such. So I try to go. I give lots of talks to colleges. I promote them not going to a job, but go start your own startup. I have the ideas. I can give you. I can guide you. So many things which I do in my spare time towards either the entrepreneurship or towards the environmental cause as such.
Right, right. We are, this conversation has been really very insightful and has truly enriched our discussion today. You mentioned that you are an avid reader. I myself am an avid reader. So, if a few books, maybe one or two, you would like to suggest to us.
I think one book, very nice book called as Humanure. I think one
Yeah,
should. It's about waste management, how we as human beings have screwed up our because of our anthropocentric activities, or some of the technologies like toilet technology, for example. Toilet is a technology, right? By the way, but it creates another 10 problems to solve, right?
right.
So how nature solves the problem. Then there are lots of books on water management, groundwater hydrogeology. Some of them are very simple to understand. Some of them are very vernacular. Some of them are by the traditional water management gurus who are in the sector, who have written fantastic books. Aaj bhi khare hai talab. That's a very nice book by my guru. And I think there are many books. Actually, the list is limiting. Actually, if you see, the problem is not knowledge, problem is not understanding, the problem is not about solutions. The problem is about behavior, and that behavior is
Right.
at any and every individual's level, and we have to make a dent there. Only then collectively the environment will be benefited.
Right, absolutely right. Lastly, CSRBOX is creating a vision document for India 2047, a document that reflects the ambitions and shared aspirations of billions of Indians. What are your views on India in its centenary years of independence?
I think just like government says Amrut Kal is here, and actually Amrut is a liquid, it's like water. So this is an opportunity for us to work on cleaning our rivers, increasing recharge of groundwater, solving people's problem in a decentralized manner, not only doing just giving a hungry person a fish, but also teaching them fishing, bringing awareness, education into practice, because that's the thing which is going to change behavior over generations. And I think that's where we should start, in awareness generation and in capacity building. But at the same time, whatever are the problems, we have to solve them at scale using technology, right? And then we also need to encourage all the other startups which are working on agriculture, on drinking water, domestic water, or water management. We should encourage them. till now, actually, in CSR area, we have not really seen many people working on environment to that great extent. A lot of focus is on education and health, because the transactional nature of it. Basically, you can see the impact. You give a, if somebody is sick, you give a tablet, right? Or if somebody is not able to go to school, you give admission to them in some school, right? So that's where it stops. But the ecosystem around these people is the environment, and that environment has to be taken care of. So my earnest request to CSRs also is that we all should work on environment as well, in an aggressive manner, because reversing the ill effects of environment is very difficult, and we can generate I would say synergies between education and environment, right? Between health and environment, all these things are also possible. So would love to see if CSRs also can start working as part of their ESG requirements and reporting, triple bottom line and all that. Things have started coming, but I think CSRs can be the torchbearers in this aspect as well.
That's right. As we near the end of today's session, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude for your time and contribution. Thank you very much. Um, our guest today was Mr. Rahul Bakare, the CEO of Urdhvam Environmental Technologies Private Limited, a groundbreaking groundwater sustainability startup. He shared the impact of his work on various social and environmental causes. He also imparted his insights on the importance of environmental education and raising public awareness and various ways in which we can do it. He also discussed their company's innovative integration of technology within the social sector. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new from Mr. Bakre. If you want to know more about Urdhvam Environmental Technologies Private Limited, you can visit their website at www.gocharger.com or follow them on social media. Don't forget to join us again next week for the upcoming episode of Impact Talk, where we continue to share inspiring stories of individuals and organizations that are actively shaping the world for the better. Until then, this is Arushi bidding you farewell, wishing you a fantastic day. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.